Hi there, welcome back to the Art of Business English, where we help people like you get the language skills that you need to do business in English. Now, this is episode 165. I'm your host, Andrew Ambrosius, and today I've got a very, very useful lesson on opening or starting your meetings. Now, I'm not sure if this happens to you, but I'm pretty sure it does, because when someone says the word, "Oh, we have a meeting," most people groan and think, "Oh, another meeting." It's not surprising because meetings are very ineffective and often not well run in organizations. So with that in mind, what I was thinking today was I was going to give you 5 tips on how you can open a meeting in style. Now, why might you want to open a meeting in style, or effectively, maybe is probably the better word? Well, that's because you're going to get better results out of that meeting, and you're also going to get more engagement, and probably people are a bit more excited about attending weekly meetings or meetings that occur often. I guess you could say that these tips are useful for meetings which you generally do with people on a regular basis. Maybe probably not as appropriate for a really formal meeting where you are meeting with a potential customer or client. Let's just think about weekly meetings with our staff or our team, or some people within the organization that you meet frequently with. The first tip, let's dive in and take a look at these. The first tip on my list is basically to tell everyone clearly why they are there. Wow, surprise, surprise. And why it is important. I think we forget that a lot of the time. And why does this work? Well, I'm going to list out the reasons why it works. It's basically linked to an effective agenda. You should have a clear agenda with a clear objective about the purpose of why you're there. And I think the second part of this tip is useful as well. Like, why is it important to the actual, the organization? How does this really relate or feed back into the goals of the organization and this high level stuff that maybe when we're down working in the trenches we don't really think about? So it's linked back to an effective agenda, which is super important, one of the fundamentals. People understand why they're at the meeting, why they're investing their time, and how this meeting is linked to achieve company goals. Another reason why it works is that it's not like you're not time wasting. You're not wasting people's time with disorganized or unplanned meetings. If you're running the meeting, or those who are attending the meeting, know what's going to be achieved. So it does seem like it has a purpose. So the reason why this works is that it ensures that the meeting is hyper-focused. So it's got a super laser, or it's hyper-focused on outcomes rather than just meeting. And of course, it will help you stick to the main objectives of the meeting, which is really important and should be clear from the beginning. And everyone knows like that this will create a sense of clarity from the outset. So if everyone understands why they're there and why it's important, it creates clarity and purpose, a sense of clarity and purpose, which is great. And last reason why this works is because it's actually very inclusive. So it includes everyone. Everyone knows why they're there, which avoids people being invited as spectators. We don't want spectators in a meeting because spectators are not really achieving any purpose, and it's a waste of their time and not very productive or effective in terms of managing that time in the organization. So really important that. And let me explain to you why it works. So basically, by ensuring that you include everyone and the reasons for them being there or in the meeting, we can avoid inviting people to the meeting who do not need to be there, which is a definite no for meetings. And by including this step, we can also, as the meeting organizer or the person who sets the agenda, we're actually forcing ourselves to plan the meeting more effectively, okay, and only invite people who will have a role or a purpose or a reason for being at the meeting. Okay. Now, this episode will be divided into the tips and then the why it works and also the how. So I'm going to give you some linguistic skills, which is probably useful now, since this is a podcast about improving your business English. So how can we open? Well, basically what we can say is something simple like the purpose of today's meeting is. Okay, so the purpose of today's meeting is. Or we could say, by the end of this meeting, we will have. So you start with the end in mind. Starting with the end in mind is always good, because then you can work your way back. And you could also say, today we're going to cover this, this, and this. And then you can also say because, and that's where we introduce why it's important to the organization. And finally, you could say, we are all here today to achieve this, this, and this, and this is important because. So often in a meeting, we just say, hey, everyone, we're here today to discuss or decide on this. But if we take it that one little step further and say because, and give people a reason, it actually makes it much more clearer and adds clarity and actually tells or shows people the reason behind why we're doing something, which I think is super important. Okay, let's look at tip 2 now. So tip 2 is a surprising fact that is related to the purpose of the meeting, okay? So for it to be effective, it should be related to the purpose of the meeting, okay? And it shouldn't be like some random surprise fact. Okay, so why does this work? Well, basically, it engages people instantly. Okay, so once people hear something interesting or surprising related to the meeting and it's a fact, then it engages them, that you have their attention. So people are always engaged by interesting or surprising facts, especially when they are related to a specific point of interest. Okay, use them to get people listening from the outset. The outset means the beginning. Okay, another reason why it works is because it gets everyone in the know. Okay, so in the know, it means everyone is on the same page, everyone understands the same important information. And this is basically, it gets people in the know on what is happening within the company or the department. Now, surprising facts may not be common knowledge to everyone. Okay, so they can be used to make people feel inclusive. You know, oh, I didn't know that. It's like having insider information. So you can really make people feel part of a team and make them or reveal information to them that maybe they didn't know. And they can also be used to get people thinking about a problem being faced or as a way to generate some creative ideas. So you could begin the meeting with a surprising fact about the problem that you need to solve or resolve by the end of the meeting. Now, how can we start a meeting with a surprising fact? We could say one of the following things. So, hey, did you know that? So, hey, did you know that? Or did everyone know that? Secondly, I'm not sure if you are all aware, but, okay, I'm not sure if you're all aware, but. And finally, team, you may be surprised to learn that, which is why we are here today, okay? Now, if you have sent out the agenda before the meeting, there should be people should know why they're coming to the meeting or what the purpose of the meeting is. But you could introduce some relevant information. This is also very useful, this type of opener, when some surprising information or fact has happened that maybe not everyone is aware of, and it's only recently happened, and between meetings this thing happened, or just prior to the meeting. So instead of sending out an email blast, you share it with the relevant people in that meeting. Okay, so that is my second tip for opening a meeting with style. Let's look at the next one. Tip 3 is to, wait for it, start with a story. Okay, we've all heard that storytelling is very powerful. So you start with a story that links back to the main objective. This is where it can get really powerful and really engaging. So why do stories work? Well, again, it's instant engagement. People are like, wow, okay, yeah, what's going on here? Everyone loves a good story, and just like sharing a surprising fact, you can engage people from the beginning. Plus, if you link the story, here's the key, if you link the story back to the purpose of the meeting, then the story will be even more powerful and memorable. So that may take a little bit of thought and may not be something you can do if you're very busy. However, by learning how to just create a little quick story and practicing it week after week, you will improve at that, and you'll get faster at the process. Another reason why it works is because it makes people follow till the end, which, you know, you've all been in a meeting where people start to lose focus and they drift off and they start looking at their phones and blah, blah, blah. So if you have a story woven into this meeting, you can really engage people to the end, because you can tell them that you'll tell them the end of the story at the end of the meeting. And then they're like, oh, okay, I need to stay focused and see what's going to happen. So a well-told story will hold the listener's attention, meaning that the people will stay engaged and listen till the end of the meeting. And the last reason is, again, it shows people why they're there, and again, it can be related back to the overall objectives of the company. So by explaining the purpose of the meeting in story format, basically then we can show people in an engaging way why this meeting is important, and how it relates to the overall objectives of the company and how their role feeds into the big picture. So it's a really good way for engaging people. So let me start or explain to you some of the expressions or language you could use to open a meeting with a story. Okay, before we start, I just wanted to share a story which I'm sure you will all agree is relevant to why we are here today. Next one, can I kick things off by explaining a quick story? So you're asking for permission, which is always good to do as well. Welcome everyone. I hope you all have a copy of the agenda. I would like to start by explaining something that I believe you will all find interesting. Last week I was, okay, so let me just do that one again. Welcome everyone. I hope you all have a copy of the agenda. I would like to start by explaining something that I believe you will all find interesting, and then you start the story. Last week I was blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's another great way to engage people in a meeting at the beginning. Okay, let's look at tip 4, which is my almost at the end there, but the tip 4 I recommend for opening a meeting is you tell people they won't be leaving without an action point, okay? That's super important. I hate meetings that finish where I'm like, okay, what do I need to do now? What's next? What next is important for me. So that's why I think it's important to tell people they won't be leaving without an action point. So why assigning action points works. Firstly, everyone starts the meeting knowing they will have, or they'll have something to do when they leave, which is really important, I think. How many times have you been in a meeting where it ends and you're not sure what to do next, or what the purpose was, or you're like a bit confused, or it's a bit vague? So telling people they will leave with something to do creates a sense of purpose for them at the beginning and at the end. Another point why it works is that everyone follows the meeting in anticipation. They're like, oh yeah, what am I going to be assigned? What am I going to do? So they'll be waiting to be assigned a task. This engages them, creates a powerful level of engagement, and also keeps people waiting for something, which is good. You should keep people waiting because that way they will follow until the end of the meeting. Okay, there's little tricks you can use to keep people interested until the end. And finally, people leave the meeting with a clear idea of what the next step is, and there is some accountability factor as well, because other people in the meeting all know that everyone in that meeting is always assigned a task, so that it should be done by the date that is assigned that task, the due date that task is assigned. So leaving a meeting with a sense of purpose is empowering for people, and it also makes you feel like the meeting was actually useful and wasn't like a waste of time. You were actually there for a reason. And secondly, if everyone in the meeting knows what you have been assigned, it does create this accountability, which is important in organizations as well. So let me give you some language on what you can use to open a meeting this way. So before we start, I just want to make it clear that everyone will leave having a next step assigned to them by the end of this meeting. Okay, another one you could say is, hey, just so we are clear, you'll all leave this meeting knowing what is expected of you in the coming days. And finally, you could say, to ensure this meeting has actionable outcomes, I will be assigning each of you a task. So here it's very clear that you'll leave with a task. Let's look at the last one on my list then. So point 5 is also a bit of fun now. You can start a meeting on a positive point or a positive note. So you tell people, or you ask everyone that for the most positive thing that has happened to them since the last meeting. Now, This is great for weekly meetings as well if you've got a team and you know each other. Okay, so why does this work? Well, it's like a playful and positive way to start a meeting. It gets people starting in a positive mood, and it creates like this, productive space to collaborate. People feel comfortable. It's another thing that's really good, and another reason why it works is that it gives people an opportunity to talk about successes. And this is really important for a lot of people. It makes, they feel good about their successes. People can share small wins or some wins that they've had with the team and get people reflecting, which is also important. We often don't reflect enough on our wins, on the good achievements, instead of always dealing with problems and challenges, which is often common in meetings. So yeah, starting on a positive note, celebrating the wins of others is really, really good for team building as well. And also it allows for a non-business focus sometimes. So e.g., you could say, my father just recovered from COVID. Okay, so that's really positive. That's a success. That's a win. And it also helps connect employees to positive aspects of their personal life, which, you don't need to share a success from business. It could be a success in your personal life. And this is great for relationship building at the start of a meeting. So you could say, this is like, it does seem obvious, but it does work for people. And you don't need to share business material. You can always share, you don't have to always share business. It could also be personal stuff, but any win, something that people are happy about, and it helps you understand and learn about your colleagues. So let me give you some final language to open a meeting with a positive point or a positive success or win. So hey everyone, this may seem a bit left field. If something's a bit left field, it means a bit like random or something that's come out of the blue. But I want to go around the table and hear one thing from each of you that you would classify as a success since the last time we met. So that's a great way to start if you've never done it before. Or you could say, as we discussed earlier, let's start by hearing a positive thing from each of you. Could be anything. Okay, so you don't necessarily make it about business. And finally, hey team, I want to hear something positive from each of you before we start. Doesn't have to be work related, just something you feel good about. Okay, really easy, really simple. So those are my 5 top tips for opening a meeting with style. Okay, so there you have it, my friends. 5 tips to help you open your meetings in style and hopefully get the most out of your team, get people motivated, engaged, and hopefully really enjoying the process of participating in meetings. Now, before I leave, just wanted to let you know that we are obviously here to help you with your success at participating in meetings or managing meetings, leading them, organizing them, making sure that you get the best results, because we have our course, Confidence in Business Meetings, which I'm sure you will all find an epic course on how to get the most out of your meetings or your business English meetings. And as a side note, we also have broken this course down into a smaller one, which is also about confidence in participating in business meetings, which looks at just one module of the course, which is focused entirely on the language you need for participating in meetings. So you can go the full course, which walks you through the full process from start right the way through to giving feedback, following up with people after meetings, or you can just focus on one module which looks at all the key language and expressions that you need to effectively participate in meetings in English. I hope you found this useful. I hope you're enjoying the content, and I'll see you all again next week on The Art of Business English. Take care. Bye for now.